Hey. What's up, everybody? It's your boy Ron, aka Ron the Artist, coming to you live. And welcome to Ron's Recap. I'm here today to recap and review the TV show All American on the CW, Season 4, Episode 11, titled Liberation. Should have been titled Humbled or Humbling, in my opinion. Definitely. But let's get into it. The reason I say that it should have been titled Humbled or Humbling is because there was a lot of humbling and people being humbled in this episode. Like, a lot of surprises and shock factors. Spencer, a little bit of patience, definitely Billy Baker. Yeah, a lot of humbling. A lot of humbling people being humbled. So even Asher, was humbled as well. So let's get into it. Okay. So the episode started with the Baker parents, Billy and Laura, being back at the mansion. And Laura is feeling the wrath of being in the house with four other women and taking her clothes and hogging up the bathrooms. That is hilarious because I'm like, that's valid. Like, I've never lived with that many women, but I do know other people who live with other women. And when I go to their house, yeah, it needs to be separate. Then taking clothes and makeup, and I'm sure everything is all over. It's a lot. Let's just say, some changes need to be made ASAP because it's going to get real claustrophobic in there and just cluttered. And how does it feel like that in a mansion, though? It must be a mansion with not a lot of bedrooms or bathrooms, maybe like 2 or 3 bathrooms. And they still are infiltrating, Laura's space. I don't know. On to the next thing. At the beach house, JJ, next up, JJ discussing his opportunity of becoming a yoga instructor with Coach Montez's husband, high school coach's husband, who's also a football coach. He called it a zentorship. Like, hilarious. Like, that boy, JJ, that character is hilarious. Like, he is a real deal, just off the charts. Like, he says it does the most randomest thing. Like, he is the life of the party. Like, he is the person that will have everybody laughing due to his bizarreness. Like, he's a real character, and his character actually brings a different light to the episode, like humor to the episode. Yeah, there's always humor. There's moments of humor in the show, but with JJ there, it's a bit more humor. He's anytime he's in a scene, it's gonna be humorous, like, more than likely. And I like him. Thumbs up to the writers on the CW All American. Okay, so next up, shortly after that moment, walked in Billy Baker at the beach house, before his first day as the temporary principal, and he seems excited about it. Meanwhile, Preach, he got to replace him as a temporary football coach. And I don't think that's a bad move at all. I think that was a real good move because we know he has great mentorship, or at least great, guardian figure like energy. He's a great guardian figure. He's a great, he fits that role. Coach, whatever you want to call him. So, we'll just see how that goes. At that moment, I was like, okay, we'll just see how that goes. Change is definitely upon them. Changes upon everybody. Starting classes, college, from high school, new positions, a lot just going on. And it was a lot. It was a lot going on, but change is good. Change is good, I should say. Okay, so next up, Spencer, he made his way to the campus on his first official day of classes to end up in the wrong class. Like, bro, bro, it's one thing being late on the first day, because plenty of teachers expect that. They know that you're finding the class. They know that it's a hassle, you know, finding where, you know, what's what and how to get XYZ is one thing being late on the first day, but ended up in the wrong class that wasn't even the right subject. Spencer. Come on now, bro. Come on now, bro. I hope he get a handle of the schedule next episode, like for real. Okay, next up, to the high school campus, you know, with Billy and Preach. It's both of their first day in their new roles, and Preach appeared to be a little nervous at first. He appeared to be a little nervous at first, but, you know, Billy wanted to be the one to introduce him to the football team, which was at that moment out of control, throwing paper at each other, just a little bit chaotic at that moment, like playful chaotic. You know, childish moments. But Preach came in and conducted order on his own without Billy unexpectedly. Billy had other responsibilities and duty elsewhere with his principal role. Preach, within seconds, Billy wasn't even down the hallway good enough before Preach had everybody sitting in their chairs in a manly order. Like, Preach, I want to say something about him. He has this energy about him that's spiritual, yet calm, and at the same time, like, can be aggressive, if that makes sense. He definitely seems spiritual and calm, but at the same time, you can see the hood and the aggression in him a little bit too, that he's not the one to be messed with at the same time. Does that make sense? Okay. Y'all comment on this video and let me know if that makes sense. Or do you also see that or feel that with Preach? Okay, so on to, you know, Jordan. Jordan and Olivia, it's their first day on the college campus as well. Jordan seems to be loving it so far. Popularity, of course. And as for him and Liv, they meet up, you know, while waiting for her and Spencer's snack time. That term, snack time. You know, Liv and Jordan's pretty much, their convo was kind of cut short due to Liv receiving a call from Mrs. Pierce regarding her, you know, her sponsorship, her sponsor. You know, she took this role of being a sponsor for this young girl, and I guess the girl didn't show up at school, is MIA, so She kind of lost it for a second, I guess, you know. Spencer, next up to Spencer. You know, Spencer on his way to the gym with his fellow teammates, and the list of the players were posted. You know, the list of the players were posted for, you know, who was to be, you know, playing with third string. Who was to play third string. And apparently he didn't make third string. Of course, having an issue of that because for once, he's not the star of the spotlight. You know, he's not the star. He's not the center of attention. And he was pissed about it. I'm sure, like, people have been on him about that, about, you know, it's not about you constantly. You know, it's not always about you, or you always have to take the blame, or you always got to, this is not that situation. This is different and a humbling moment again. So again, I know he was pissed. In the midst of that moment, Liv called Spencer to vent, and Spencer blew her off completely and hung up on her. Like, I'll call you back. I'm going through something, ... and hung up on her. And I was like, whoa, okay, Spencer, okay. So back to Olivia, Liv. She is frantic, and apparently she got a call, you know, from Mrs. Pierce, as I just said. You know, Mrs. Pierce saying that her daughter was missing, on top of being flustered about it, you know. Spencer hanging up on her, slightly, you know, taking her frustration out on her brother Jordan as he tries to accompany her through this situation. She apologized to him, of course, you know. She then got another call from someone about the location of, you know, the girl, her sponsor. Next up, Layla. You know, Layla gets a surprise visit at the studio from the artist Savine, who was ready to work with her today and now unexpectedly, which threw her off. I guess maybe Layla was a little nervous, or she just, one, unexpected, caught her off guard, too. probably nervousness. 3, she just wasn't prepared. She wasn't prepared. She wasn't prepared. Yeah, definitely. A little bit of all of that, I'm sure. I'm sure. Okay, back to JJ. JJ, again, character. JJ and Asher, when they reported to the football field, being Asher's shot to to shoot at being the assistant coach, the student assistant coach, to Coach Montez. He shot and scored somewhat. Montez was still familiar with Asher's abilities, which worked in his favor because Montez, gave Asher some plays to review, right away. Gave him some plays to review. He didn't turn them down. He didn't just like check these out. Like, let's see what you got. And that lit up his face, that lit up his world for the moment. Next up, Billy. As Billy adjusts in his principal role, he is having this moment of, with these heavy keys, a minor moment of having heavy keys. He was approached by Mrs. James, Spencer's mom, about having preach in a classroom with students, considering he's a convicted felon. Apparently, he was not allowed on school grounds with students due to such. And I kind of completely forgot about, Preach being a convicted felon. He did just get out of prison, and he has 2 strikes. So, and like, no. That rubbed a few people wrong. So, Billy was reminded that, Billy reminded her, Billy reminded Spencer's mom that, Mrs. James, that he's principal and has the power to place whomever, wherever, and she reminded him that it's temporary. And there's a strong candidate to fill your role soon, so don't get too comfortable. And again, another humbling moment. I'm like, woof. Like, he hit her with like, well, I'm principal. I have the power to do what I please right now. She's like, yeah, temporary and not for long. And, I literally wrote that down, like, ultimately humbling him on his power and not to get too comfortable with Preach in that role either. That was a brutal approach, but it was reality. Like, this man is a convicted felon. He's not supposed to be working amongst these students like this. He's not supposed to be in a classroom. He's not even supposed to be on this campus. That's unfortunate. And then Billy has a strong competitor, that's about to step in the role or wanting to step in the role of the principal. Yeah. Okay, so back to Savine and Layla. They're in the studio, and there was a bit of disconnect at first with the beats Layla presented to her. And after a little pep talk and inspiration from Savine, Layla knew exactly how to approach the collaboration with her by simply just getting to know her. And that scene just warmed my heart up. It just warmed my heart up and made me smile because clearly Layla is passionate about this. And the artist Savine is passionate about working with her. But she knew clearly that Layla wasn't giving her best or her all, and that there was a disconnect in the relationship or the presentation that she was giving her, that Layla was giving Savine. So she got down to it, like, she pointed out, like, how you work with patience in this song and the melody of that, like, let's get to that vibe. And again, it resulted into Layla having to get to know Savine a bit, and both of them kind of getting in each other's world. So that's what it was. And again, that made my heart smile because it worked. It worked. Like, she was the only person in this episode that wasn't being humbled, I should say. Like, she was the only person in the episode that I really feel like had some great moments. Everybody else's world is kind of being shot and like shook. And she was the one that just keep elevating. Like, just a matter of her potential and really living up to it and achieving it and going after it. I can't wait to see where Layla goes this season. Okay, so back to Spencer. We tracked down Coach Kenny to find all the reasons behind him being benched, the decisions of him being benched and not, making, the third string. with a sense of entitlement as well. And Coach Garrett overheard, the conversation and the accusations of him picking favorites on the team and immediately intervened with it, with truth and a bit of spice. And he intervened heavily, like, bruh, you're wrong. He gave Spencer insight on the reason of him being on the team, which was simply a replacement of someone else, and under the agreement of Coach Kenny's employment on the team. He also feels like Spencer has an ego built from high school and his reputation from high school that he thinks will earn him the rights, going forth on this team, on this college team, which is intolerable. Like, he was raw with how he came at Spencer. But again, Spencer came at Coach Kenny raw, and Coach Garrett overheard, how raw it was and came at him raw, like, bruh, humble yourself, because you're not even supposed to be here. I didn't even want you here. The only reason that you're here is because of Coach Kenny's agreements. And you didn't make it because you were filling somebody else's spot who's now back or whatever the case may be. And cruel, foul, but truth. So that left Spencer stunned by, again, the hurtful truth. But as Coach Kenny said, what is he going to do with the response to that news? Coach Garrett doesn't care for Spencer. Clearly, it's obvious. Giving him the hardest time, but Spencer, needed to be humbled, as I said. And just so happened that Coach Kenny was the one to do it. Oh, no, not Coach Kenny. Coach Garrett was the one to do it. I'm sorry. And that was unfortunate. Again, like I said, this episode should have been titled Humble or Humbled. Being humbled. Like, there was a lot of humbling in this episode. Okay, so while all of that madness is going on, meanwhile, Asher and Coach Montez are still on the field. After Asher's observations of the plays and players, Montez didn't approve of, his observation, or at least his speculation of the observation. And that also humbled Asher, because he thought he had it. He thought he knew what was the issue with this play, or what was going on, with the team. And he was told to try it again. Humbled. Again, humbled. Because Asher thought he had it. But not quite. Not at all at that moment. On to Liv and Jordan. They made their way to find, the girl that they were looking for, Meanwhile, both getting calls from Spencer as they got to their location. Olivia declined the calls on both phones. Petty. She feeling slighted by Spencer, and she slighted him back. They found the girl and drilled the girl and bribed her with ice cream for the insight on why she ditched class on her first day of school, which she had a great explanation for it. She did. She had a great explanation for it. She worried about her sobriety and having triggers from her school friends that she had prior to her getting clean. But Olivia brought her to comfort and assured her that she's always there for her to call and that things will be okay. She's always there for her to call and that things will be okay. So if you ever feel like that, Olivia told her, if you ever feel like that, give her a call. She's been there, done that. Give her a call. All right, on to Preach. Back to Preach. He was really, I'm so proud of him. I guess that's another person who had results in this episode. Him and Layla just doing the darn thing. Preach, with the football team, bonding nicely with the football team, connecting rappers with a poet, with a writer. I was like, what? Connecting rappers, modern rappers with poetry. Like 1800 poetry writers. Like, I'm like, wait a minute. Shakespeare. Wait a minute. Shakespeare. And it made sense. He is very insightful too. He has a lot of knowledge up here. He has a lot of knowledge up here. And the fact that he was bonding with that team off the field, that says something alone. So just imagine the connection that he will have with them on the field. And in the midst of that, there was a fight in the hallway near the classroom that he broke up with the students in the hallway, dissecting it gracefully. And like at that moment, I'm like, again, like this man clearly deserves to be at this school. He seems to be having an impact with that football team already, and not just the football team, with students in general. You know, he deserves to be amongst the students. He clearly has a purpose, you know, with mentorship and, you know, being there for the youth. We saw that throughout his character, throughout his time on the show with you know, Coop from day one. Like, I'm glad we got to see more of him. Because his character could have dried up a while ago when he went to prison, or right before that. Like, because his character wasn't doing a whole lot at first. But now he's in there, and his character is dope. Like, I really like Preach. I like him. So while that is going on, you know, Patience, she gets back to the baker's residence after running her errands, I'm assuming. She got a surprise visit from the detective for Mo's murder, wanting to see Coop, leaving Patience stunned. The detective then went in on Patience, like drilling her and accusing her of attempting to cover for Coop while she's out of town, until Laura overheard it in her house and interfered, shooing the detective away. Like, dude, I'm a lawyer. This is my client. Shoe fly. He quote unquote tried to humble Laura, like, oh, you're no longer DA, you're no longer in law, da 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 da. Like, get away. First off, he infiltrated in somebody's home, did not have a warrant or anything, and you practically followed that girl. Like, that has to be some type of, there's something wrong with that. How his approach completely. Back to Asher, you know, still analyzing the plays for Montez. Still not quite having answers, but Montez was still intrigued by Asher's observations because Asher saw something, but he still didn't have the answer of what he was asked for. So, showing potential. As Asher spoke and gave the rundown and gave this speech, scenes appeared back and forth between him and Spencer as Spencer worked out at the gym alone by himself, determinedly. And I was just like, okay, Spencer, I see you. Spencer is trying his best. He's going hard. And that's one thing I want to say about Spencer, too. Like, even though Spencer has this ego and always wants to be the hero and the center of attention and the spotlight, Spencer is actually a good person. Spencer is actually a good person, and he does work hard now. He does work hard. He's really putting in the work. He's putting in effort. Like, it's not like he's not trying. It's not like he's not trying and just relying on his celebrity to lead way for him. He's actually putting in work and actually really trying and putting in effort and still not quite getting the results. So, again, I wish Spencer the best with that situation. Back to Patience. Patience and Laura getting down to business as Patience is on edge with the detective's scared tactic. She couldn't get a hold of Coop. Like, Coop, call me, reach out. Laura demanded that Patience, you know, told her everything about that night. Like, pretty much you have no other choice but to tell me what's going on. If I'm going to represent you, you got to tell me everything. And Patience did it. Back to Billy. You know, Billy touching bases with Preach after the day about the massive results that he's heard about with Preach's impact on the students. Again, being so apparent that Preach deserves to be there amongst some students. But I wonder how that's going to go when Billy breaks down the news to him. At that moment, I wrote that down. Like, I wonder how that's going to go when Billy breaks down the news that he won't be able to coach permanently, or he won't be able to coach the kids. He never told him. Billy ultimately never told Preach about the opposing forces against him. And that was probably a good idea. That was probably the best decision. So back to Liv. You know, she finally got the chance to talk to Spencer. And at first, it started off as a tit for tat, spat. A tit for tat spat. about whose issues were more important. But of course, Spencer had to unleash his aggression on someone. And there it was. There it was where he was like, I'm going through this, I'm going through that. Yeah, you got this and that going on. Tell them da 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 da, but I'm going through this and da 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 that. And I understand that Spencer was really, going through it at that moment, but it's not always about him. Both of their matters were serious and needed attention, but neither of them couldn't be there for each other in that moment. And that should be understood on Spencer's part. Definitely. Like, take a breather, bro. Assess the situation. Football situation is one thing, but don't mess up your relationships in regards to that. Like, your friendships and your romantic relationship in regards to that, because you might not get those back. Like, bro, you better fix that. So back to Layla and Savine, having dope results together. Getting to know one another, and Layla producing a dope beat for her, giving results. Savine also got Layla to open up a bit more on what she truly wants out of the industry. An empire is what she said. An empire is what she said. And again, that made my heart smile. And I'm like, I hope she gets it too. I hope she gets it, because clearly she works hard as well. She's determined and very passionate about music and making music with others that are passionate as well. And Savine got to it you are so much bigger than this indie corner that you're in. Imagine if you got with a big major label, the doors that will open for you. What is it that you want? What is the ultimate goal? Because I see you getting there, but what's stopping you? So maybe it was a little bit of a fear, but Layla says she wants the empire. I want to see it. I want to see it. Her character is really growing up this season too. Really growing up. She's having a little minor moments with her little guy friend, but her character is evolving, and I'm happy to see that. I'm surprised she's not in college as well. She talked about that episode or two ago, that she thought about it, but she doesn't really need it. And I think that works for her too. That's been working for her. That's going to work for her. Okay, so Billy went to see Grace at her house, and he had the conversation with her about, being a permanent principal. He wants the role. And as nice as that sounds, Grace gave him the reality check, letting him know that there's a female candidate with great experience who's already there and she's waiting to get that spot. And it's not another option for her like it is with Billy. The NFL perhaps. That clearly, hit him hard because he was stunned by that, because maybe him and Spencer has that in common, being a little self-centered when it comes to their goals and stuff like that, where it has to be about them when it comes to their goals. Personally, I think I can relate to that. But okay. But it has to be about them. It has to be about them when it comes to certain things. And Billy knows that sports is his life. Yeah, you're just not figuring out this principal role is something that you like and that you like to pursue. But, sports is your life and has been your life for XYZ years. This principal situation can't come second to that. Meanwhile, there's someone already that's in this education field, that's in Crenshaw, already has experience, been here, done that this is not second to. So that was a great point, that if you want this, you need to really show it and make this a priority, because there's somebody else that will make that a priority. Oh, Billy, good luck with that. Good luck with that. So Patience and Laura, getting down to the truth and reality of the situation were cool. And Laura discussing that Patience has nothing to worry about, at least at that moment. Not to worry. We have nothing to worry about. I'll let you know if you need to worry. She's going to do her research, reach out to her DA friends and see what was up. And stay tuned. Or, let me get back to you. The next moment, Liv and Jordan walked into the house. Liv being upset about the argument with Spencer. And Jordan got a random text from Spencer stating, "You need a favor." I was like, okay. kind of favor do you need? What kind of favor do you need? Okay, so, Billy made a surprise visit afterwards. Billy made a surprise visit to see Spencer at the beach house. And I guess Spencer had a revelation from the meditation he had with JJ, about changing his approach. Changing his approach as Asher told him. Asher told him, change his approach and suggested that. And he, had a revelation with JJ with the meditation. Has, a clear head and perception about, how to proceed and with his stance on the team. Billy left soon, shortly after, and Billy arrived, home to Laura with silence, and shedding light on her about his decision of wanting to become the official school principal of South Crenshaw High. And about how to, possibly go about it. And even if that means them moving into his father's house, which is in Crenshaw, Laura was completely open to it, and she was the one that really, put the idea out there. So off to Crenshaw it is for them while letting them girls have the house. That could be a curse and a blessing. If that is a mansion that y'all paid for lots of money for, you just gonna let the kids live in it and take that space while y'all go live in Crenshaw in a smaller space? That's for Billy, but that's a weird little situation where I don't know if I would let them kids run that situation. I don't know. I hope it works out for Billy, though. I definitely do. So on to Jordan. He somehow dragged Olivia to the beach house where Spencer had a little candlelight dinner set up for her outside on the balcony, which was the favorite. He greeted her with an apology, and she returned the gesture as they lovingly expressed their feelings for each other, towards one another, ultimately making up and all that goo goo gaga stuff. I'm happy for them. I'm happy that they're finally in a loving space, cute little space. They deserve it. I like their support for one another. It's dope. I like it. I like their connection. So back to Asher. He approached Coach Montez the next day, somewhat aggressively about the plays he had. The plays he had, and he was sent to analyze without seeing much flaw. Apparently, there was one that Asher didn't catch, or Coach Montez, for that matter, or at least when he was in an assistant coach position. When he applauded Asher. Even though he stated that he felt that Asher wasn't ready. Even though Montez didn't have an opening for an assistant coach, he offered a position of washing jerseys to Asher, which Asher immediately accepted. And then Montez applauded him again for spotting something else that he didn't see. It's even though you didn't spot what you're supposed to see, you spotted something else that nobody else caught. So kudos to that, which shows great potential. Again, great potential. Hopeful. Sidebar. The fact that Coach Montez had open-toe flip-flops on that football field in all those scenes that he was in the 2-3 scenes that he was in, that did not sit right with me at all. The CW. All-American writers. Why did y'all have that man on that field in them doggone open-toe flip-flops? I don't think I've ever seen a coach, football coach, any coach on the freaking field or floor, stadium, whatever, or open-toe flip-flops on. That was that little detail bothered me just a little bit. Just a little bit. Okay, so as the episode was, wrapping up, Preacher approached Billy about the hearsay about people not wanting him there. So, again, Billy never mention it to him, but word got back to Preach. And he thanked Billy, for standing up for him and fighting for him. Billy told him as long as he's principal, he has a job there, and that he wasn't going anywhere. And I was just so happy to hear that. I was so happy to hear that because I'm like, yes, Billy, fight. This is something that is so meaningful. Him being principal not only will change and do something for Preach, but it would do something for the students as well. Their presence matters with these students. Clearly. Both of their presence. So, Billy. I'm going to need Billy to fight with every gimmick and trick he may have, whatever opponent he may have coming up against him. Back to Spencer. Spencer approached Coach Kenny, apologizing about his behavior and assuring that he'll do better by going up and beyond to show Coach Garrett he deserves to be on that team. And also by sitting on the sidelines. I was proud to hear that. He's willing to do the work behind the scenes, let alone standing in his lane outside of the spotlight if that's what's asked of him. So that's what that is. Off he went to go see and meet Liv, waiting for him outside afterwards. I'm proud of Spencer, realizing, flaws and working on them and working to correct them. I'm proud of him. Lastly, the last scene of the show, Laura. She fills patients in on her research and her connection to the DA's office, confirming that they found some incriminating evidence against Coop and that it looks bad for Coop. And as she told patients not to worry, don't worry until I say, worry. She's like, yeah, it's time to worry. So Coop needs to get back in town ASAP, because it's not looking good for her. And at that moment, I was just feeling like, I cannot wait to see what happens with that. Like, this episode was a good episode. I really enjoyed it, dissecting it and just analyzing it and watching other people analyze their freaking game results and all of that. Like, a lot of trials and tribulations. Like I said, I feel like the episode should have been titled Humbled or Humbling, because there was a lot of that going on in this episode. It was a great episode. It was a great episode, guys. Thanks for watching and staying tuned, If you're watching this with me right now, we are live on Instagram. If you're watching this on YouTube right now, this is not live and it's pre-recorded and taken from Instagram. If you're watching this from YouTube, please like, subscribe, share, comment. Just let me know. Give me feedback on the review. What did you think about the episode? What did you think about this recap review? Did you like it? Let's talk. If you're watching this on Instagram, let's talk. Same applies. Follow me, like, share. Let's talk about the episode. Until next time, guys. Next week it is. Peace.